Welcome to the exciting, colorful, hip and cool prehistoric adventure that is Joe and Mac, where the plot is simple, the levels are short and sweet, and the music is rhythmic and bouncy, plus the boss fights are fun and frequent. And you get to help save all of the cave babes, and I mean all of them. It's a game with plenty of personality, as you can see the two characters beating the crap out of each other, ultimately to reach a double knockout on the start screen. Joe's the OG with his original green man bun. Mac has his slicked back purple locks, and every chick is rocking different hair color and style too. Joe and Mac started out in the arcades, and the series was popular enough to land itself on the most relevant consoles of its time, with 4 entries that people could play at home on the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and original Game Boy. As opposed to it staying the same across multiple consoles, Joe and Mac was cool enough of a concept that each game was taken as its own opportunity to create something different while staying true to the original arcade idea. Being born in '91 with a couple of older siblings, I was at a super young age when introduced to our Super Nintendo, and Joe and Mac was in the mix of the first games we had for the console. It's a game that I do hold near and dear with fond memories, not just due to its excellent graphics, music, and levels that bring a smile to your face, but it's a game that I could only watch my brother and sister play for quite a while, since I was too young and clumsy to make a valid teammate. So I had plenty of time to look around and admire my surroundings. I'm sure I whined about it at the time, but in hindsight, I get it. If your teammate sucks and holds you back, it doesn't allow the other to see what's right in front of them, making them die more often as a result. Plus, it has limited continues from the game over screen, and nobody wants to start over from level 1. When I finally knew enough on how to turn on the system and start the game myself when no one was around, I'm talking kindergarten era here, I was playing slow as hell and getting my ass handed to me. So once I was finally able to play with one of them, it was like I made the cut. I was becoming worthy and could finally try to beat the game on a team. Of course, as the younger sibling, I wouldn't be worthy of first player Joe. I was good old trusty second player Mac. And every time I grabbed that second controller at such a young age, I felt it was my duty to be the best Mac that Joe could ever ask for. If I was playing, I had to be on my best, because there was often another person watching, like my other sibling or one of their friends, that might take the controller away from me if I sucked. As years would pass and my younger brother was in the picture, I grew with the game, becoming the leader, Joe, and trying to help him be the best Mac that he could be. The way you play is kept pretty simple, but it has more going on than you might think. You do press left and right to move, have an attack button and a jump button, this much is true, but they're made more interesting with options. For attacks, while you just start out swinging your club, you quickly pick up weapons that are thrown by your club as you attack. You have bones as the standard weapon, decent in power, range, and you can throw 3 at a time. You can pick up fire, which can only throw twice, but it's a bit stronger. You can get boomerangs, which are plentiful and even return to you, but are of course weaker. The best weapon in the game, though, is the stone wheel, that you don't pick up later until the icy cave. You can only throw 2, but it's 3 times as strong as the bone. Plus they roll infinitely, and it's a nice weapon to let lead the way. The game even lets you use select to cycle through the 4 weapons once you've picked them up. How great is that? More games of that era should have definitely done the same. For jumping, it's a little loose and floaty, but you have a standard jump, and you can do a super jump simply while holding up and jump at the same time. Overall, easy and effective. For movement, aside from walking at normal speed, you can double tap left or right to do a rolling attack, and you can even sprint by holding L and R at the same time. You can even outrun the wheel at this speed. All of this control is kept so simple and is perfectly fine for the challenge ahead of you. This time around, I played through on my own, but I also played a little with the wife for this 2-player footage. The game even still impresses me. Every level, in my opinion, has visuals and audio that are still vibrant, fluid, and stunning today. The levels are full of color, the backgrounds scroll in multiple layers, and the variety is great. The music is brilliant and unique to me. It's a perfect 10 out of 10 match for what it is. And who could forget the sound effects of those dinosaurs? Nobody, that's the answer, and it's all tied together with a perfect little overworld that includes checkpoints and a catchy little bop that can turn any frown upside down. There are wonderful little visuals that are relevant to the stages that you are entering. You'll notice that there are some gates that you need keys to unlock the bonus rooms, found by correctly cracking these glowing orange eggs. The way these work is you basically need to make sure the area has been cleared of enemies, and sometimes before the enemies come on the screen at all, in order to have this friendly pink pterodactyl come out and pick you up, and it looks like they're going to have a hernia or shit themselves carrying you off screen. This is where you can grab some health, sometimes a 1-up or 2, maybe some weapons to ensure you've picked up the wheel, and finally the key. There's no timer displayed, but if you do take too long, the music will get more dire, and you'll get picked up before you can finish. On this epic little adventure, we explore near waterfalls, climb a giant tree, auto-scroll down a river, navigate spikes in an icy cave, scale rocky mountainside, and watch our step in 2 volcanic stages, a creepy dinosaur graveyard, and a stormy finale against the biggest and baddest of them all, that even takes you into the belly of the beast. There's just so much to see and listen to, and it is always a great time playing through the levels. Every level caps with a perfectly fitting boss fight that has you feeling complete upon victory. The first level has an excellent start as you move to the right, revealing a tail, giant body, and the sleeping face of a big T-Rex. Kinda random, but I have to mention, when we were little, my older brother would get up here on the dinosaur and use the firepower that you can grab, then adjust it to be in the perfect place to make it look like the dinosaur was sneezing and say, Curiously, you'll encounter your first baby T-Rex right over here, but once you move on from him, you can hear the big T-Rex waking up and then he confronts you. It makes you wonder, is this the mom, or is it the dad? Is it a much bigger friend? Who knows, but I do know that this had me hooked for the rest of the game, and this moment has been burned into my memory forever. And believe me, the rest of the bosses don't disappoint either. The bosses are huge sprites with epic music, and the boss fights are brought even further to life with the most excruciating facial expressions you've ever seen, accompanied with a big cry of pain. The game is actually just 10 levels long, and as I said previously, the levels are nice and short. For level 2, after you navigate some bridges, geysers, and jumps, it finishes with this big carnivorous plant. It whips, shoots out seedlings, and can shoot your ammunition back at you if your weapon lands in its mouth. Just as you might expect from the world of Pokemon, you want to use fire on this grass type, and crouching shots make this fight a total breeze. One super cool thing about this plant is that he's totally against drugs and alcohol. Third level is a climb up a big tree full of cavemen and beehives, with a large green pterodactyl that cries out before coming onto the screen with powerful wings you can hear every flap. Over the years, we've noticed that boomerangs seem to do the best job with how many you can fire out at once. Aside from just moving out of the way and avoiding him, you can also use your roll attack when it's flying at ground level. We used to joke about what a bad mom this thing is because it will literally drop its own eggs out just for you to immediately kill them. Could you imagine that being your life? Just breaking out of your shell and immediately taking a boomerang to the face? Sure is nice to get out of this egg and stretch my wings. Hello world, I'm ready to start my life now. Fourth level is scrolling down a river with some jumps to make and cavemen to fight. The wheel makes this level really easy, and it ends with a bunch of pissed off dolphins that you need to avoid while they jump in and out of water. Between the wheel and just using your rolling ability, it's easy to mow through all of these guys. You can keep an eye on their dorsal fins in order to anticipate where they'll shoot up from. The fifth level is really short, as a little pterodactyl struggles for its life holding onto you with all of its might while moving around to avoid dropping boulders. It's hard to speculate on why you're here, but one thing is for sure, and this boss is pissed. He is angry that you made it down that waterfall. You just have to be a savage and keep attacking the top of its head where it looks like there's a blowhole, and you can even roll through it when you get the chance. Also have a couple phases where you need to fire your weapon down its throat to keep fish from shooting out. Sixth level is where we have a nice icy theme full of cavemen, little T-Rexes, and a couple more challenging platforming moments. This jumper here always felt impossible to not take a hit, but somehow I got really lucky this time. If you try to imagine what boss could possibly be perfect for this Ice Age theme, they really nailed it with this mammoth. And my god, this fight is straight up the mammoth's worst decision to not walk away, because as it goes on, geez, the amount of pain felt here. Good lord. The seventh level is nice and short. You can literally double jump your way to the top of this mountainside in about like 10 seconds. Then we've got another pterodactyl with slightly different flight patterns and an extra deep groan. It's actually the same sound the other one makes when it dies. Overall, pretty similar fight with similar strategies and a bigger life bar. After finishing this level is when something pretty significant happens. The happy, upbeat tone takes a turn into some much more serious shit. This is when you know you're on the final stretch. Eighth level is a hot volcanic theme, complete with a nice glow. We have some nice dinos, boulders, fires, cavemen, and jumps to make. This boss is another T-Rex, but you may wonder why the heck its neck looks like Whopper's candy. And I used to wonder the same thing a lot as a kid. It wasn't until this playthrough that I really thought about it, and I guess it could be a pretty obvious answer. The first boss only moves from left to right, never requiring its head or body to move at all. Even if you stand at the bottom, you actually see its tail come out, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people haven't seen before if they stayed on the top level. But anyway, they start doing fights like this in order to make it very simple to animate the head moving around, since they are cutting this huge corner of drawing and moving a bunch of different body sprites for the dinosaur. I wish that they didn't cut this corner because that would match the rest of this game's top-notch presentation, but doesn't change the gameplay, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. He can shoot boulders and cavemen out of his mouth, stretching outward and downward. For whatever reason, some of these deaths have super delayed thuds and screen shifts when they collapse. It's pretty weird. Ninth level is another volcano setting with some more platforming and fire to deal with. More dinosaurs, big and small, and cavemen up to their typical antics. There are a couple levels where they use vehicles and they look like they're straight from the Flintstones, which is pretty funny. This boss is awesome looking. And the fight is a good change of pace. The only problem with it is that once you have a feel for the pattern, it just kind of takes too long. So they could have made this dude more challenging so the fight would be a bit more engaging, or shorten his life bar to not make it drag on so long. But overall, really cool concept, graphics, and sound effects. 10th level, now we are in a graveyard on a stormy night. Some more dinosaurs, cavemen, and a bit more platforming that can be pretty annoying with the slightly finicky collision detection. Pretty annoying to quickly lose lives this way. They got creative again with the skeleton dinosaur that I always assumed was a T-Rex, but maybe with its long-ass neck, perhaps a Brontosaurus? But I don't know, those teeth look pretty sharp. Probably just the long neck uses another graphical workaround, just as we saw with the other one. But anyway, it goes along with the skeleton theme, giving more of a spooky feel on this level. You basically just hang out of reach and jump around to shoot. It gets a little cheap though, because for the first half of the fight, damage results in the thing's spine landing in chunks that are basically impossible to avoid unless you get really lucky with a well-timed spin or just somehow squeeze through a tiny opening. After a while, its head gets separated, but this is easy to avoid too. So finally, we are here, and basically, we have what feels like 2 levels bundled together on this last space. It's another stormy night with lightning strikes that you can sprint past or roll through, platforming that can be pretty annoying with just slightly questionable and finicky collision detection. You definitely want to avoid silly lost lives here because it's a long level and you don't want to start it over. Eventually, you'll come to what I consider the hardest boss in the game. This T-Rex's head is massive and the hardest to avoid. They put a stump on the back of this screen too, so boulders now bounce back underneath him, which changes the fight quite a bit, and of course shooting cavemen out of his mouth. Also has a huge life bar, so it has a lot more of a marathon feel going on with it. Once the fight is over, we, for whatever reason, go into the belly of the beast. Last stretch inside the dinosaur is a bizarre yet awesome way to end your journey. There's so many moving parts like the blood cells moving in the background and these things that, whatever they're supposed to be. You can use the wheel a lot in this last level to lead the way again, and you can actually roll up the walls yourself too. But what are these people doing in here anyway? As if they were swallowed whole, but they're not concerned with that at all. They just want your blood. You've got a couple big gray clam things that look a whole lot like the second level plant boss had as well. The final boss of the game is pretty interesting and kind of makes the whole Joe and Mac journey open to interpretation. You encounter an evil little devil complete with a pitchfork and all, which, as my older brother and older sister would tell me, is the reason why all the dinosaurs haven't been so nice to Joe and Mac so far. Not simply to eat you, but it's because they were possessed by this evil spirit that forced them to do so. Wow, that really changes how I feel about all of these guys. It's not their fault, it was this devil asshole all along. It only makes sense to end the game by destroying the very spirit of evil itself to restore great prehistoric kindness to the world. The devil fight isn't too bad with some practice. Eventually you'll take him down and think it's all over when the last girl escapes from inside the dinosaur. But then we get an all-new boss theme that sets stakes at an all-time high. The devil has new and improved movement and moves. When I played this time, I had a couple of weird things happen. The background music actually came on and off between pauses, which was really weird. And the way this fight ended for me was really strange. It's like my final attack on him tied with his exact moment of one of his attacks where he turns invincible. You can see for yourself, I do absolutely nothing to him while I move around his attacks, and then... pretty weird stuff. Overall, the game takes just around an hour or so, and can be done faster if you sprint by everybody and make quick work of bosses with minimal deaths. It's a really fun, arcade-feeling experience, and in my opinion, Joe and Mac is a must-have on the Super Nintendo for its sheer fun factor and replayability, with 1 or 2 players. So man, long and short of it, Joe and Mac is the tits. It's a great game for coming out in '91 on the Super Nintendo. Great color, great sprites, wonderful music, and you know what? We have a lot of great memories with it. And you know what, of course, made us go nuts was when we saw this in our rental stores, Joe and Mac 2. Can't wait to look at this in the next video, along with 3 ports I've never played before. Just got this the other day, Joe and Mac for the Genesis. I also have the Game Boy and the original Nintendo Joe and Mac coming. And I look forward to seeing the rest of the series. I mean, I love the concept. This is my favorite weekend shirt. As you can see, I'm a big fan. Whether you know what this shit is or not, I mean, this just screams win right here. But anyway, I really appreciate your guys' watches, your likes, your subscriptions, and your comments. So I really can't wait to make part 2 and see you guys next time. Thanks again, man, and have a great day.